Hey everyone, hope you're doing well today. So, there's something big making the rounds again, and it's got a lot of folks asking, are we really getting another check? This time, it's not coming from COVID or a stimulus package during a crisis. It's coming from something you might not expect. Tariffs. Yep, President Trump is now floating the idea of using the billions of dollars collected from tariffs on imported goods to send rebate checks directly to the American people. And guess what? They're calling it a kind of tariff dividend. But the story here is a lot more complicated than just free money. What most people don't realize is that the U.S. collected over $200 billion in tariff revenue since April, which is triple what it brought in last year during the same time. That's a huge number. In fact, just in July alone, it brought in nearly $30 billion. And now Trump is saying, hey, maybe it's time to send some of that money back to the people. Not through tax cuts or a loan program, but actual checks. Real cash in your pocket. So what do you think about that? Should tariff money be used this way? Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think. And if you want to stay in the loop about your money and how these big ideas could affect your daily life, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, let's explore further. The current version of the plan comes from Senator Josh Hawley, who introduced the American Worker Rebate Act. Under that proposal, every adult and every dependent child would receive at least $600. So a family of four could see $2,400 just like that. Now, it's worth noting, this isn't universal. The payments would start to phase out at $75,000 in income for individuals and $150,000 for married couples filing jointly. That's pretty similar to how past stimulus checks were structured. So then, where's all this money really coming from? That's one of the first things people get confused about. It's easy to hear the word tariff and assume that other countries are footing the bill. But that's not quite how it works. Tariffs are basically import taxes. So when US companies buy goods from other countries, say electronics from China or clothing from Vietnam, they pay these extra taxes to bring them in. And usually they pass those higher costs down to, you guessed it, you and me, the consumer. So while the government is collecting the money, it's still kind of our money. Now, that's where some of the criticism starts to come in. Economists are worried that using this tariff money to fund rebate checks could do more harm than good. For one, we're not in a recession right now. The economy, while shaky in some places, is technically still growing. Unemployment is around 4.2%, which is historically low. So this isn't like during COVID or the 2008 financial crisis. Back then, checks made sense to boost spending when things were collapsing. But now, not so much. One economist put it this way: giving people rebate checks in a healthy economy is like skipping dinner and going straight to dessert. It might feel good, but it's not what the situation calls for. And yeah, that kind of hit home for me too. The bigger issue, though, is inflation. We're still dealing with it. Prices for groceries, gas, and rent haven't come down the way we hoped. And tariffs make that worse by raising prices on imported goods. So if you combine higher prices from tariffs with putting more cash into people's hands, you're just feeding the fire. This combo, tariffs and checks, could keep inflation going longer than we want. And what's more, it could lead to what's called a wage price spiral. That's when prices go up, people demand higher wages to keep up, and businesses raise prices again to cover those wages. It's a loop that's really hard to break once it starts. Some experts think this proposal could push us closer to that danger zone, especially since the labor force is still tight. But beyond the economics, a lot of people are questioning the politics behind this. Is this really a smart financial move? Or is it just, well, theater? You see, even some Republicans aren't on board. Senator James Lankford called it a bad idea. Senator Ron Johnson said flat out that the country can't afford it. And Senator Roger Marshall said folks aren't even complaining about tariffs in the first place. And get this, Trump, who voiced support for the idea, also took a jab at Hawley, calling him a second-tier senator. So it's kind of hard to know if they're really working together here or just, making noise for headlines. And honestly, that's how a lot of people feel. Some see the whole thing as a stunt to win votes. It reminds them of the so-called Doge dividend checks that were floated around during past GOP campaigns but never actually existed. One comment, described these tariff rebates as imaginary benefits, not much more than a fundraising tactic dressed up like policy. Still, the idea is catching on with a lot of folks. Because let's be real, prices are high. And even if people don't fully understand the source of the rebate, the idea of some relief sounds good right now. A recent AP poll showed that over half of Americans say grocery prices are one of their biggest stress points. I mean, I feel that every time I do a grocery run, milk, eggs, everything just keeps creeping up. And one person said they can feel the price hikes on every trip to the store. Others are a bit more skeptical, calling the checks vote buying or comparing it to taking $150 billion from the public only to hand back a fraction. And someone else made the point, kind of sharply, that this sounds a lot like socialism from a conservative White House. That part really stood out to me because it flips a common script. When you take money through tariffs and then redistribute it as checks, even if the intent is to help working families, that's a form of wealth redistribution. And depending on how you look at it, that's not so different from policies that usually come from the other side of the aisle. So yeah, there's some irony here, and a bigger conversation about trust. Because this isn't just about a $600 check. It's about whether people believe in the system offering it, whether they think the government is doing this to help or just to win a few more votes. And after years of broken promises, delayed payments, or flashy headlines that never turn into anything real, people are tired. Some are hopeful, sure, but many are just done with the back and forth. Now, the last piece to think about here is what else that tariff money could be used for. Trump's original argument for tariffs was to bring back manufacturing and reduce the national debt. But if the money's now going toward rebates, what happens to those goals? Because of that, many people argue that this is the wrong move. If you're worried about debt, and let's be honest, the US debt is already sky high, then maybe we shouldn't be using this money for checks. Maybe it should be paying down what we already owe. There's also the problem that by giving the money back, we lose the fiscal benefit of the tariff in the first place. One economist said it's like collecting a tax just to hand it right back. It still causes price increases, but now you don't even keep the money to use for something long-term. So it's all the pain, without much of the gain. But again, to a lot of everyday people, that part doesn't matter as much as the immediate reality. Rent is high, groceries are expensive, healthcare costs keep creeping up. So if there's a check with their name on it, even if it's not the perfect policy, many will take it. That tension between short-term relief and long-term responsibility is at the heart of this whole debate. And it's a debate that's not going away anytime soon. Whether or not the checks ever come, the conversation reveals a lot about where we are right now. We're in a place where people are stressed, stretched, and unsure if anyone in power is really looking out for them. A check might help for a month, maybe two, but it won't fix the bigger issues. Still, sometimes when you're just trying to get by, a month or two of breathing room is enough to feel like someone's listening. So what does this all mean for you? Well, it means you should keep your ears open and stay informed. If a rebate check does happen, we'll break down how it works and who qualifies. But even if it doesn't, understanding the way these ideas are pitched and the effects they might have is key to making good financial decisions for your family. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you shared your thoughts in the comments. Does a $600 check sound helpful to you right now? Or do you think it's just a distraction from the bigger issues? And hey, if you found this helpful, or at least thought-provoking, give it a like and consider subscribing. We've got more conversations like this coming your way. Take care of yourself out there,